This video is sponsored by Skillshare. What's going on, guys? Anastasio here with FlytPath.com. And if you've been following my channel, you guys know I've been covering Xdynamics for the past few years now, especially at all of the major trade shows, CES, NAB, whenever they've had this on display. It's definitely one of those kind of showstopper type of drones, because when you walk by it, you see this right here, which is a full carbon fiber body, which is definitely just a unique looking and a unique type of drone that you've seen, or I've seen at these shows. So of course I was excited. They reached out to me. They want to know if I want to review this unit here, the Evolve 2. Of course I wanted to test it out because I'm always interested in some of the newer platforms, as well as this right here. It does have a micro 4/3 camera. So this is more of a first look video because I just received it not too long ago. I haven't really had time to fully test it and review it just yet, but this is more of something that's new. I don't think that many people know much about it. And I just want to show you guys kind of what it's about, as well as what it came with, and just give you guys a little bit more detail on this right here, which is the Xdynamics Evolve 2. And if you guys are new to my channel, my name is Anastasio. I do a lot of drone tech tips, tutorials, and product reviews right here on this channel. So if that's something that interests you, please consider subscribing and also hitting that bell to be notified when I post new videos. Now, of course, when I first saw the Xdynamics Evolve 2, it reminded me of this bad boy right here. This is the OG Inspire 1, but this is the one with the X5 camera, the micro 4/3 camera. These type of drones sit in a different category compared to some of the Mavics as well as the Minis. Those are just a little bit different types of drones compared to these. And when you do want higher quality image and video, you do want to move up into larger cameras, larger sensors. And that's what you would get with these types of platforms here. And when you do fly the larger platforms and larger cameras like this, you do want to take full manual control of the camera. And that rolls us into today's sponsor, Skillshare. Now, for those who aren't familiar with Skillshare, Skillshare is an online learning community that's really focused around the creative arts. So whether you're new to videography, photography, or want to learn something like illustration or design, Skillshare has thousands of online courses to choose from. And if you want to maximize cameras like this, you want to understand all of those manual exposure settings. And I'd highly recommend watching Jordy Vanderput's class on DSLR filmmaking from beginner to pro. In his course, he breaks down everything from filmmaking, as well as how to properly dial in and understand what your ISO does, your shutter speed, as well as an adjustable aperture like we have on these types of cameras. So if you're looking at leveling up one of your current skills or want to add a new skill to your tool set, make sure you guys check out those Skillshare links down below in the video description. And a huge thanks to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. The first 1,000 people to use those links down below will get a free trial month of Skillshare Premium membership. And now back to the video. Now, when I first saw it at CES, like I talked about, the one thing that really kind of stopped me was this right here. This whole carbon fiber body, all single piece. It just looks so sweet in person. They definitely refined it a lot over time, because I know one of the first ones I saw just didn't have the carbon fiber pieces, were kind of mismatched. And of course we have here on the very front that micro 4/3 camera. And when you flip it over to the bottom, we do have this magnesium plate. Now the Signal magnesium plate here is made to disperse a lot of that heat, but it also adds a lot of stability. As you can see here, the landing gear, everything is kind of mounted through that plate into the body. Now, as far as the micro 4/3 camera, they actually sent me this one with an Olympus 17mm 1.8 lens, and you can just detach that. And that's the one benefit of these types of drones, this one as well as the Inspire, where you're able to swap out some of these lenses. Gives you a lot different looks, especially if you're shooting with a long lens, getting in a little bit tighter, doing some parallax movement there. And as far as installing it is pretty straightforward. We do have connectors here on the top of the gimbal as well as the bottom of the drone. All you have to do is line up that red dot right to the middle. All you do is turn it, and then you can hear it click, and the lock is lined up with that red dot, and there you go. Now, one of the benefits of these larger platform drones too is that you're also able to have stronger motors. This thing is actually rated to go up to 53, 55 miles an hour. That's the top speed of the Evolve 2. Now, Xdynamics told me that 90% of this drone is actually built in-house with all custom parts. You're not dependent too much on third party, which is really good, but at the same time also kind of concerning, because if you do have anything wrong with it, because of the fact it's all custom, I'm just kind of worried or thinking about turnaround times. If I were to crash this, if something were to go wrong, I just hope that Xdynamics has enough, stock or equipment if something were to go wrong for me to get something replaced in a timely manner. One thing they also talk about is that there is no geo fencing on this drone. And this kind of reminds me of when I talk about the Autel Evo. And if you do have something like some of the DJI systems, and I'm not advocating that you fly in places you shouldn't fly, but of course, if you are in a geofence area, you might need to get some sort of job done. Sometimes things like this, or even the Autel Evo, because of the fact you don't have those geofencing restrictions like you do on some of the DJI stuff, that this might come into play for you for certain scenarios. Now, when it comes to flight time, this is actually a pretty heavy 6,700 milliamp battery. They are rating this thing to go about 33 minutes up in the air. Of course, like all my other drones, I will definitely do a basic hover test just to see where that goes. I'm assuming 33 they're rating it for. We'll probably say 24 minutes or so, 25, somewhere around there. But of course, like I said, I'll normally do my little hover test just to see what we get. As far as propellers go, they do have this quick release system here. Nice long propellers and a nice beefy motor, but they have this quick release. So all you do is press it down, spin it, and lock it. But I kind of like the design of the motor themselves versus some of the other ones I've seen. The one thing I do like about the Evolve 2 is that you are able to use a full-size compact flash card right there. So if you want to expand out that memory, you have a full-size card, and you're definitely going to need that expansion because this thing does shoot in Apple ProRes 10-bit. So you're going to want to have a lot of storage on there, because if you are shooting in ProRes, you guys know, if you don't know, it uses up a ton of memory. On the very bottom of the drone, we do have the LiDAR sensors as well as the light. So we do have sensors here at the very bottom. We also have sensors here in the very front. And that is about it. We don't have any top sensors, there are no back sensors, and there are no side sensors. So if you're looking at something to have obstacle avoidance, this one is not what you're gonna go for. And a lot of the cinematography drones out there, even like the Inspire, a lot of times, even if you're going out with drones that have obstacle avoidance, a lot of times you're just turning them off because of the fact that you don't want to have that restriction if you're out there free flying. So I don't think they're focusing on the obstacle avoidance on these types of drones. They are just giving you some basic ones mainly for landing and some front ones here. Coming back to the camera system, like I mentioned, so micro four thirds camera, you are able to get 12 megapixel photos out of this. And a lot of people would wonder why is it such a low megapixel, but the thing is, larger sensor, you're still gonna be able to get a lot higher quality photos from this larger sensor, even though it's a smaller megapixel. This is also rated to shoot 4K at 120, so I think that's definitely something I like to try. I like to shoot a lot of 4K 120, but normally for like B-roll stuff, but I'm curious to see how well it'll perform if I'm actually doing some aerials, being able to slow some of that footage down. Now you're able to swap out this lens for different focal lengths, but they also mentioned that they might even come out with other types of cameras for this platform, which I'm really curious about. So I definitely will follow up with them and follow up with you guys, let you guys know if there are some different style cameras. I'm not sure if they're just talking about maybe like a thermal or something. I'm not sure yet, but they just mentioned that they are going to be coming out with different camera platforms. So once I get updates on that, I will let you guys know. Now, those are most of the highlights on the actual drone itself. Like I said, this is more of a first look. I do want to take this out there, get it out into the field, see how well it performs. Flight characteristics, of course, are a big deal for me, as well as transmission. How well does it fly? And everything's going to be pumped back into this right here, which is a very unique style, clamshell style remote controller, what they're calling the ground station. This is the 5.5 inch, what they're calling the control panel. And then here up top, you do have an 8-inch screen to see all of your telemetry and your live view from the actual camera. Now, one benefit, of course, of something like this is what they're calling the ground station, is that it does have 1,000 nit brightness. And ideally, these types of remotes will work better in hot or cold elements. If you guys know, if you guys fly with like something like your iPhone, you guys know every time that thing it gets really hot outside, it'll dim, it'll start shutting off. So I do want to see if I'm going to experience some of that issue with something like this. Now, as far as the distance goes, they are saying it's about 4 kilometers built in, but they do have these right here, which is the ability to add external antennas. Now, they didn't include any antennas in this package, but they said that if you do have external antennas, you can push this all the way up to about 11 kilometers in distance. Transmission is by far still the #1 thing I look for in having a drone as far as reliability goes. Like I always talk about, I don't care how good your camera system is. If you lose transmission, it's pointless flying or doing anything out there if you're not able to get a good feed back to your remote control. So I'm curious on how well it's gonna do at great distances, you know, even a mile away, and also how good or how bad is the latency on this remote control to this drone. Now, as far as the remote goes, you do have the power button here on the top left. You have the up and down, I'm assuming it's landing and takeoff, and then you have a home here, which is more like a return to home button. Scrolling around to the back of the remote control, we do have a micro SD card. You have a USB-C in the middle and an HDMI, full-size HDMI out. So that's also a nice feature. If you want to plug this into a TV or a monitor, you're able to do that while you're flying. Pretty big, and there's no way to, I'm not seeing like a lanyard hookup here. It would have been nice. I mean, there are some screw holes here on the side and on the bottom, but being this large, I would assume that there might be some sort of lanyard or harness system, kind of like how DJI has that full harness. It's something like this, you're gonna wanna have that on here because this thing is gonna be pretty heavy holding it out there for a while you're flying. But the one thing I do like about this remote is that you do have a bunch of customized buttons. You have a B1 here, you have C1, 2, 3, 4, so you have all these customized buttons. So if you are setting these things up and you are a power user and you know all of these shortcuts and what they're gonna be doing for you while you're out there, hopefully to save you some time by setting a lot of these shortcuts on these buttons. And there it is, guys, just my first look at the new Evolve 2. I'm gonna be taking this thing out now, getting some test footage, and I'll be able to report back to you and let you guys know what my full review is on it, how well does it fly. Of course, image quality, transmission is a big one, and I just wanna, you know, go through and see how the user experience is working with this type of platform. Once again, I want to give a huge shout out to our sponsor of this video, Skillshare. Make sure you guys check out those links down below if you guys want to add a new skill set to your toolkit. As always, if you guys got some value from this video, a big like would be much appreciated. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell to be notified when I post new videos. I'll be coming out with part 2 and part 3 of this drone right here, the Xdynamics Evolve 2, so make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. This is Anastacio with FlytPath.com. I'll see you guys next video. Take care.